Good day, I'm Andri, and I'm warmly welcoming you all once again to my essential love lectures and works of love. But today we are discussing these works of love philosophically. So we shall use Plato's Symposium and Diotima's Letter of Love to try to explain what love is and how love manifests itself. Plato's dialogue, the Symposium, is one of the key texts of the Platonic tradition. It relates a series of speeches made in praise of god Eros at a party thrown in celebration of Agatha's victory in the contest of dramas in the festival of Dionysus. There are 7 speeches, and the first 5 are from some of the renowned and cultured gentlemen of Athens. Each praises this great god of love, Eros, love or desire, in his own way, and culminates in an extravagant pyrotechnic from Agatho himself. All good and all blessedness is attributed to Eros, who is, as he claims, of all the gods, the most blissful, the most beautiful, and the best one. The sixth speaker is our great Socrates. He begs permission to cross-questions Agatho before making a formal speech, and this being granted, he shows that since desire is always the desire for something which is lacking, Eros cannot, in this sense, be the best or the most beautiful one. So, rather, this praise must be given to the beloved, the object of love and the object of desire. The point that is being made here is something which you can never believe that it could be a point. And thus Socrates, with this Eros lacking of something, begins his speech. Strangely, rather than speak for himself, Socrates recalls the teaching he received from the priestess Diotima of Mantinea, and his entire speech is actually hers. There's nothing of Socrates's here. All that you will hear and all that is put down and written in this dialogue are the words of a woman. She, as Socrates explains, had in her turn questioned him about the relation of love to the beloved when Socrates had called Eros a god and had showed him that Eros was not a god, for how could a god be thought to be lacking in anything? Rather, she said, Eros was a great daemon or spirit who acted as an intermediary between the gods and humankind, connecting those who lacked but loved beauty to the beautiful. So, all forms of love, it seems, are variations on a desire for beauty and ultimately a desire for immortal and never-ending beauty. Eros himself, she said, was the offspring of Poros, wealth or resource, and Penia, poverty, conceived on the birthday of Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. From Penia, which means poverty, he inherited the characteristic of lack, an emptiness that always desires to be filled and fulfilled. And from Poros, his father, the resourcefulness to make good that lack. And because of the timing of his conception, his pursuit of goodness centers itself upon beauty. In this halfway state, Eros is not a mortal, but not quite an immortal. He is like a halfway, and he seems to continually die and revive, sometimes, thought Diotima, even on the same day. In passing, she points out that Eros has the same relationship to the lack of beauty and the gaining of beauty that philosophy has to ignorance and the gaining of wisdom. We philosophize because we lack wisdom, but feel very deep need for it. A passion. Whether we are referring to the physical or the immaterial self, she next says, we teem with seeds which we can only bring forth in the presence of beauty. The sowing of these seeds allows us a certain access to immortality, or at least an image of immortality. Let us pick up her teaching. So let us initiate of Socrates from this point what he says, but he is saying through her, so she says, nor is it less plain from instances of a different kind that immortality is the great aim and end of all. For if you observe how the love of fame and glory operates on men, and what effect it has upon their conduct, you must wonder at their folly in laboring so much and suffering so greatly in the pursuit of this wonder, of this glory, of fame, unless you consider the mighty power of that passion which possesses them, a zeal to become illustrious in after ages, and to acquire a fame that may last for ever and be immortal. And for this, more than for the sake of their families, more for the sake of their friends, are they ready to encounter dangers, to expend their treasures, to undergo the severest hardships, and to meet death itself. But though immortality be thus sought by all men, yet men of different dispositions seek it by different ways. In men of certain constitutions, the generative power lies chiefly and eminently in their bodies. Such persons are particularly fond of the other sex, and court intimacies chiefly with the fair. They are easily enamored in the vulgar way of love, and procure to themselves by begetting children the preservation of their names, a remembrance of themselves which they hope will be immortal, a happiness to endure forever. So in man of another stamp, the faculties of generation are in as eminent a degree of the mental kind, for those there are who are more prolific in their souls than in their bodies, and are full of the seeds of such an offspring as it peculiarly belongs to the human soul to conceive and to generate. And what offspring is this but wisdom, and every other virtue connected to wisdom? Those who generate most and who are parents of the most numerous progeny in this way are the poets, and such artists of other kinds as are said to have been the inventors of their respective arts. But by far the most excellent and beauteous part of wisdom is that which is conversant in the founding and when ordering of cities and their habitations of men, a part of wisdom distinguished by the names of temperance and by the name of justice. When the soul of any man has been teeming with the seeds of this wisdom from his youth, and of divine souls, it is the native property thus to teem as soon as he arrives at maturity of age, and those seeds are fully ripened, he longs to sow them in the souls of others and to propagate wisdom. And in this situation of his mind, his whole employment, I suppose, is to look about and search for beauty where he may generate, for never can he generate on aught which is ugly or uncomely. Meeting first, then, with outward beauty, that of the body he welcomes and embraces it, but turns away from where he sees deformity in the body, for his soul is full of love. But if in his further and deeper search he has the good fortune to meet with the inward and hidden beauty of a well-natured and generous soul, he then entirely attaches himself and adheres closely to the whole person in whom it is found, the compound of soul and body. He now finds in himself a facility and a copiousness of expression when he entertains this partner of his soul with discourses concerning virtue, by what means it is acquired, what is a character completely good, what studies should be pursued, what arts be learned, and how time should be employed in order to the forming such a character. Now, these are the questions. Desirous, therefore, thus to form and perfect the object of his love, he undertakes the office of preceptor, indeed, whilst he is conversing intimately with that which is fair, those seeds of wisdom which he was before big with burst forth spontaneously, and he generates. From this time, whether in the presence or absence of his mistress, his mind and memory become prompt and active, and he readily produces all his mental store. Both the parents then join in cherishing, rearing up, and cultivating the fruits of their love and amorous converse. Hence, it is that the friendship of the firmest kind cements such a pair, and they are held together by a much stricter band of union than by an offspring of their bodies. Having a common and joint interest in an offspring from themselves more beautiful and more immortal, who would not choose to be the father of such children rather than of mortals sprung from his body? Who that considers Homer, Hesiod, and other excellent poets with the admiration they deserve, would not wish for such an issue as they left behind them, an issue of this mental kind, such as perpetuates their memory with the highest honor, and procure for them an immortality of fame? Or such a posterity, said Diotima, as that whose foundation Lycurgus laid, and Lacedaemon, a race of which himself was the first father, the preserves of their country and all of Greece? Amongst yourselves, what honors are paid to the memory of Solon, who begat the laws, and abroad as well as the home how illustrious are the names of many others, barbarians as well as Grecians, who have exhibited to the world many noble actions, and have thus begotten all kinds of virtue. To men like these have temples often been erected on account of such their progeny, but never was any man thus honored on account of his mortal merely human offspring. In the mysteries of love, thus far perhaps, Socrates, you may be initiated, she says, and advanced, but to be perfected and to attain the intuition of what is secret, of what is inmost, introductory to which is all the rest, if undertaken and performed with a mind rightly disposed, I doubt whether you may be able. However, not to be wanting in readiness to give you thorough information, I will do my best to conduct you till we have reached the end. Do but you your best, she says, to follow me. Whoever then enters upon this great affair of love and works of love in a proper manner, and begins according to right method, must have been from his earliest youth conversant with bodies that are beautiful. Prepared by this acquaintance with beauty, he must in the first place, if his lid aright, fall in love with some one particular person, fair, beauteous, and on her beget fine sentiments and fair discourse. He must afterwards consider that the beauty of outward form, that which he admires so highly in his favorite fair one, is sister to a beauty of the same kind, which he cannot but see in some other fair. if he can then pursue this corporeal beauty and trace it wherever it is to be found throughout the human species, he must want understanding not to conceive that beauty is one and the same thing in all beauteous bodies. With this conception in his mind, he must become a lover of all visible forms which are partakers of this beauty, and in consequence of this general love, he must moderate the excess of that passion for one only female form which had engrossed him wholly, for he cannot now entertain thoughts extravagantly high of the beauty of any particular fair one, a beauty not peculiar to her, but which she partakes of in common with all other corporeal forms that are beauteous. Now, after this, if he thinks rightly, and he knows to estimate the value of things justly, he will esteem that beauty which is inward and lies deep in the soul to be of greater value and worthy of more regard than that which is outward and adorns only the body. As soon therefore as he meets with a person of a beauteous soul and generous nature, though flowering forth but a little in superficial beauty, with this little he is satisfied. He has all he wants, he has all he needs, he truly loves, and assiduously employs all his thoughts and all his care on the object of his affection. Researching his mind and memory, he draws forth, he generates such notions of things, such reasonings and discourses as may best improve his beloved in virtue. Thus he arrives, of course, to view beauty in the arts, the subjects of discipline and study, and comes to discover that beauty is congenial in them all, and he now therefore counts all beauty corporeal to be of mean and inconsiderable value, as being but a small and inconsiderable part of the real beauty, and that is inner beauty.